4, 3, 2, 1.
Champions! Wrexham are promoted. They have their storybook ending.
You can walk through the fire. You can walk through the fire. When it's down to the wire. You can walk through the fire.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Wrexham Texan. My name is Jake Green. Thank y'all so much for joining me today for this episode on Risky Business, Season 3, Episode 4 of Welcome to Wrexham. How this whole podcast began was because of the documentary. So let's go review this thing. All right. The episode starts out with a song that we're all very familiar with at this point, at least anybody who's plugged into the Wrexham world, and it's McElhenney by Ryan Reynolds and a whole bunch of other folks. It was one of the birthday things that Ryan did for Rob, and from that we go into a weird narration, try to make it kind of look like Parks and Rec, leading up to Rob talking to Chris Pratt just out of nowhere, which I know was on his Instagram a while back, I guess around Ryan's birthday. And they just made a whole funny gag out of it. And I also love that during the making of the song that Ryan did for Rob, he said, "Is Rob even good enough for this?" Which is pretty great. But yeah, the Chris Pratt thing, very short cameo. I mean, just they interrupted him mid-sentence, and that was the last you saw of him, which was great editing, hilarious, really funny. I mean, it's obvious, like Rob knows comedy, Ryan knows comedy, so it's very obvious that the comedic points are always going to hit, or at least 99% of the time, because that's what they're best at. Then we get into more serious stuff. I mean, they talk about the birthday things. Let's see. Where was I? Sorry, I was looking at something. And I can't remember. Oh yeah. Then we just get to the town. We get to the thing that Rob is doing for Ryan's birthday, which is dedicating a park with his incorrect name, which it's pretty funny. But they're putting it in a place where a building burned down twice. Both buildings that were there prior to, man, this is so weird. I've got like a hair or something floating around in my eye. Both buildings that were in this location burned down over the previous 200 years, I think. So one was a cinema, and I can't remember what the first one was, but hopefully the park doesn't burn down, although that would probably be the funniest possible outcome for the Ryan Rodney Reynolds Memorial Park. But the new mayor comes on, because we've met the old mayor before in season 1 and 2. He was in a few episodes, and the new mayor is Andy Williams, and he talks about how people, when they were, back in the day when they were saying where they were from, they used to say, we're from right outside of Chester, and that would be Wrexham. But now he hears a lot of people saying, yeah, we live right outside of Wrexham, and that was Chester. So things have changed since super high profile people took over a football club in a tiny town in Wales. And that's not surprising whatsoever. Like a lot of what they do in this, sorry, I just got distracted. Let's see. Look, the thing about owning a team, which obviously I don't own a team, I don't own a club, I don't own anything in the sports world. But the thing about owning a team, I know from being a fan, is that you want your owner out if things start going super poorly for a very long time. Okay, so it's always a tenuous relationship between the supporters and the owner, especially since the owner does all the business decisions. They don't necessarily determine who the players are that are cut or signed or anything like that. But um, if things start going poorly, as was mentioned here, um, there could be a call for Rob and Ryan to sell the club. Um, and one thing that they were talking about, especially Humphrey, is that how long, before if we don't get to the Premier League in the next 10 years, is that does that mean it's time to move on to a different owner? That's a really hard decision. That's a really hard thing to think about, especially considering all the success we've had over the last couple of years. Um, but that's how it is. It's a business. People want to win. People want to make money, and then Rob and Ryan aren't soccer whizzes. They are very good at business, especially Ryan. But they're not. They don't come from a football world, and so I think things will be a little different, and they're going to have to make some major changes once we get into the Championship League, which they talk about here in a minute. Um, they basically, Sean Harvey mentions that they put in £8 million into Wrexham AFC, the two of them. £8 million they put in. That is a heck of a lot of money. Um, and so, they're both multimillionaires. On the screen, they showed that Rob was worth about 50 million and Ryan is worth about 350. Well, then they flash up the stats of the owners of other of Premier League teams, and they're all billionaires, all of them. The average net worth of someone who owns a Premier League team is like $5.65 billion. I think they said the owner of Man City or Man United is worth like $23 billion. So like Rob and Ryan are not billionaires. They could be eventually, especially Ryan with all of his businesses. I mean, the dude's got so many businesses, so he could potentially be a billionaire. But man, that is a long way down the road, and they're going to have to get help before we get to the Premier League, because that jump from from Championship to the Premier League is huge. I mean, the amount of rules you have to comply with, the stadium size, just so many different things come into play once you get into the Premier League, because Premier League's a brand, and they don't, it has to live up to certain standards, and so if you don't meet those standards, you can't stay in the Premier League, and that's kind of how it goes. It's the ultimate stage for English football, and yeah, it's going to be, we've gotten promoted twice in 2 seasons. Could it be a third in a row? Maybe. Um, will it be 4 in a row? Absolutely not. Nope. No, it will not be 4 promotions in a row. And if you think it can, kudos to you on being absurdly optimistic. I would say delusional. But I do think we have a chance to get promoted into the Championship this coming year. I think it's a long shot, but I think we could make it happen, especially depending on what moves we make this offseason. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the situation for Rob and Ryan. Like if Rob, Rob went into this clearly wanting to own this for forever. And so he's going to have to make extremely difficult decisions in the future, of who to bring on board, how much percentage to give away, for what amount of money, what it's just going to have to be a whole restructuring, not to mention all the players we're going to lose just to get to the Premier League. I mean, I think we might end up with just Max Cleworth from the original group, that gets to play in the Premier League. Like, I don't think it's going to be Mullen. Sorry. It's definitely not going to be Palmer, Mark Howard. Like, there's some of these that might up their game. Andy Cannon is showing a lot of promise. That dude is a firecracker. I personally think Bickerstaff could potentially get to that point, although it seems like he might be on his way out, which would really suck. So yeah, it's just being realistic while still having a positive mindset is a good way to go about this, because if you expect us to get into the Premier League within the next 2 years, then you would see an entirely different team with at least one or two new owners. Um, and it would just be a very different situation than it is right now. So, uh, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And I don't think they really get back to that for the rest of this episode. But then we do a flyover for I don't remember which game it was, but it was Remembrance Day. Which now I forget what Remembrance Day is over there because we don't have that over here. But I do love a good flyover. We used to go to Texas A&M American football games growing up, and it's a military school. It's got ROTC and the Corps, and I mean, the flyovers for every single game. All sorts of planes, all sorts of aircraft. We had helicopters, we had bombers, we had one time that stealth. What is that thing called? It looks like kind of like the Tesla Cybertruck. We had that stealth bomber. I think it's a stealth bomber. Yeah, flyover, and that was crazy. We also had one time where it was a B-52 and they had mistimed it because it's so slow. And so the kickoff had already happened when the bomber got over the stadium. So, so everybody's sitting there looking to the sky, waiting for the plane to come. It doesn't come. Everybody starts paying attention to the game, and then the plane comes. It was hilarious. Kind of interrupted everything for a moment because those things are loud. They start talking about the park again. And one thing that really stood out was somebody proposed a Ryan Reynolds slide where you go down a slide and come out of his mouth like he's vomiting you up, which I, I really want them to do that. I think that would be hilarious. I doubt they will because it's ridiculous, but I would love it. And I think everybody else would love it too. All right, then we cut to Stan and Valerie Cruise Sailor from Zimbabwe, and they think that Wrexham needed a spice shop. Which, look, I love Irish food, love some Scottish food, love some lamb, love some potatoes, love some Welsh food, but for a change of taste every now and then, maybe some Zimbabwe spices are a good thing. That's I could probably eat shepherd's pie every day. There's a shepherd's pie that local grocery store here makes that is unbelievable, and yeah, I could probably eat that every day. But some of these toppings and seasonings that they brought in, that Stan and Valerie brought in, look incredible. They've been married for 32 years, and one of her goals, aside from introducing Zimbabwe cooking and Zimbabwe cuisine to Wrexham after immigrating there, like it had to have been close to 30 years ago. I mean, it had to have been a long time ago, 15, 20 years ago, maybe. Is she wants this town of Wrexham to be what it used to be. She said a lot of the shops have closed up, which is a theme that we've heard from the very beginning. Is once the mining went away, the town kind of dried up, and there were fewer businesses. There was no real nightlife, and one of her goals is to help bring that back, which is a great goal. And I think the park goes right along with it. When Rob was walking through, looking at the park and park location and where it's going to go and everything, they said that stores started popping up right nearby just because of that. Well, maybe not just because of that park, but I'm sure that was a positive when people were looking to open up a new business. So, yeah, this episode's all about small businesses, which I own a small business. My wife owns a small business. Small businesses are phenomenal things. And the next one, actually, no, we get to Morecambe next. One of the best games of the season, in my opinion. I mean, just utter fun when you are not worrying about winning after 7 minutes. That feels pretty good. Yeah, started off with McLean to Cannon, back of the net. I still don't think Cannon actually hit that one in. It looked like the defender actually hit it in, but whatever, give it to Cannon. And then Cannon got an assist to Mullen in the 7th minute, and then Ford went out. Mindy came in. Mindy did a sick move. It was one of the most patient runs into the box because he could have shot it. An impatient player, a younger player, a less developed player would probably have shot it that first go, but he did 2 more jukes and then got it in the back of the net. It was unbelievable. 35th minute. And then Mullen with 2 more in a row for the hat trick, and then James Jones making it a 6-0 victory. That game was incredible. Absolutely loved it. And I loved reliving it for the brief 4 minutes that it was on this episode. We then go to another small business opening. Robbo, Mia Roberts' dad, which that's funny because I'm sure Neil Roberts is more known than Mia, but it is funny that I said it that way. Yeah, he's opening a wine bar, which I know from listening to Me, the Wife, and Wrexham AFC that he was successful, and they think it's a delightful bar. And during the whole setup process, he got Wayne's advice from the turf, came over and even let him train in the turf to make sure, he got some experience, knew what he was doing. He was very thoughtful about the whole thing. He said that he's looking at it as a new career and he knows the odds are against him, but he's going to do it anyway. Which is just the best attitude. That's how you succeed at things is, there are going to be a ton of people who tell you that it can't be done, that you shouldn't waste your time, that it's not going to make you any money, that you're not going to be able to live off it. Well, and Robbo did exactly that. It is one thing. It's a theme for this episode, aside from small businesses, is the idea of preparing for your future as a star soccer player, football player, actor, whatever it is. There are going to be industries where you can only do it for a certain amount of time. And I guess acting you can do till you die, but sports, especially, you have a very limited amount of time to play, especially the contact sports like football and baseball and, yeah, especially the team sports, like maybe pool, you could probably play for a very long time if you consider that a sport. But yeah, there are so many cases of star athletes, especially in the NFL and the NBA over here, and I'm sure it happens in Europe as well, where they make tens of millions of dollars a year, and then by the time they're 40, they're broke. It's because they don't know how to manage money. They have nothing set up for the future. They're living only in the now, and it ruins it. It ruins their future for them, and they have to start from scratch, start all over. And one of the big themes in this episode is preparing for your future after football. Because you can get swept up, you can get caught up in all the glory and the acclaim and this little world where everybody's praising you, and it can be extremely distracting from what real life actually is, which it is a distraction for people like us, for the supporters, for the fans. It's a distraction from an entertainment from real life. And if you get caught up in that, it can severely hamper what your future is going to be. And so Rob and Ryan sit the team down and talk to them about how they want to help them develop their own small businesses. And I know that they've done this with a few folks at this point. Let's see. Mindy's got a clothing line. Palmer's got a clothing line. There were some others, and I've forgotten. Somebody, I think Jordan Davis is opening a restaurant. There were a few others that I'm now forgetting. I should have written them down. But yeah, he sits them down and explains that they will help. They will give advice. They will do whatever they can to help their small businesses succeed so that they have something after football. Unbelievable. I mean, how many owners of clubs are going around and doing that? Very, very few. Very few. So kudos to Rob and Ryan for doing that, because that they say they, from the beginning, they want the town to succeed. Well, that is how the town is going to succeed. That is a huge way that is going to make the town get more developed, more successful, bring in more income. All that is the players who play there and live there, developing their small businesses so they can open up shop in the town of Wrexham, draw more people in, draw in more eyes, draw in more income, grow the economy. Phenomenal way to do it. Yeah, huge respect for that. We go down a huge Ollie Palmer road, which is his clothing line, and he's doing photo shoots, and he's doing an HP commercial, which was hilarious. I thought his acting was spot on. It seems like he could probably do a little bit of acting, maybe become the less menacing Vinnie Jones, maybe in the future. But yeah, I thought his acting and his comedic timing for that HP commercial was fantastic. And then we go into his clothing line. He sees a drawing of him also during the HP commercial. He sees a drawing of him on the storyboards for it, and he looks ridiculous. I forget who he said he looks like, but he looks ridiculous. And what's great about his clothing line is his wife is involved. She's the hair and makeup, and she offers advice as well to him and his partner. Wonderful. It's a good little family operation they got going, because it's great clothing. If y'all don't have any WXM clothing, highly recommend. Super comfortable. Yeah, it's all about 1864, which is, year the club was founded, or the club. Yeah. Year the club was founded. And yeah, I own, I don't know, like 5 t-shirts, sweatshirt, I'm sure some other things. Yeah, absolutely fantastic clothing line. Highly recommend. And he's doing it consistently and like coming out with new stuff all the time. Sometimes it's hard to get items because they sell out so quickly. So if you're looking for items to buy from Ollie, do it ahead of time because they sell out a lot. Then we move into the final bit of this episode, which is Harrogate Town. We start off with Andy Cannon's 36-minute goal in the lower 90. Fantastic goal. This was the point where you could see Andy Cannon really breaking out and being one of our studs for the rest of the season. Elliot Lee then scores in the 41st minute, and then disaster as Okonkwo gets kneed in the face. Complete accident. The guy didn't mean to do it. It was very obvious that it was just part of the game. It was just part of the play, not intentional. He was not trying to do Okonkwo any harm, and it didn't even look that bad in real time. And Robin Ryan said that too. From their vantage point, it looked like he just grazed his face. Turns out, friggin' massive jaw fracture. Like it was huge. And Okonkwo still tried to play. That takes some guts, man. If he had gotten hit one more time in the face, it would have been awful. Definitely would have required multiple surgeries, and not good ones. That would have been a massive problem if he had, dived after that last ball, that they scored before halftime. he and it hit his face. That could have been hugely impactful for the rest of the season, maybe the rest of his career. He may have been having to wear a face guard forever at that point. I know he still wears it from time to time, but man, that fracture was wild. We ended up tying Harrogate. It is what it is. Mark Howard let one in right after halftime. Not his fault. No way he could stop that. It was a perfect free kick, perfect header into the back of the net. There's he deserves no hate for that one because it was perfectly executed by Harrogate. So game ends in a draw, and it was at this point that I think it was at this point that we kind of started to stumble a little bit. I forget what. I'm going to look it up real quick because, there was that time during January, February where we were absolutely horrendous. I haven't been on our website in a while. They changed it up a little bit. Let's see. Matches. Results. All right, let's go down to Harrogate. Was it in December? Oh, it was. Okay. So it wasn't even, no, it was in November. So it was November 28th. So not even close to actually when we started going downhill. We still did well for a very long time after this. It wasn't until January, February where we were awful. So the Okonkwo thing didn't hurt us all that much in the long run, but I'm very happy that he was able to recover and come back and help get us promoted yet again. Yeah, I liked this episode a lot. I thought it was very well done. I thought the comedy was great. I thought the message was great. Anything about planning for your future and ensuring that you're going to be okay in the future, or at least giving yourself better odds and helping other people do that, I think is a fantastic message every single time. And they Rob and Ryan clearly want everyone to succeed in every possible way with this club. And yeah, I mean, during Rob went and met with Robbo up at his wine bar, talking about the business and talking about how hard it is to run a bar and how much you love it, even if it's difficult. But yeah, he was annoyed with how Mia found out she was cut. He said that'll never happen again because she found out just online that she was cut. She didn't get told in person. Rob found out just by seeing it online. He didn't get told in person. So that's definitely a problem. It's definitely something these players are working for you. It's not a massive organization. There aren't thousands of people in the business. It's not like Dell or, Apple, where the CEO of the company is not getting told that they're firing some staffer at at an Apple store in Atlanta. It's probably, I don't know how many people work for Wrexham. It's probably 100 people total. And that's not that many. And yeah, there should be better communication for sensitive things like cutting people, because that, especially someone who's 18, 19, that could be pretty devastating for them. So I think, having better communication and learning how to, or just making sure that everyone's talking and knows what's going on at any given time, and that private things are done privately before they're made public, I think is a big deal. And it was just Rob caring about, somebody who used to work for him. That's fantastic. Overall, I would give the episode, I'd give it A-. Yeah, I think it was an A- show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Would watch it again. There are some episodes of Welcome to Wrexham that I probably won't watch again, but this is one that I will absolutely watch again when I go back and rewatch the show. So that'll do it for this week, y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure to come back next week for more Wrexham Texan. You can also, if you want more of this dumb face, you can watch my other podcasts. I do a political one every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern called Liberty Libations, and then I run the Libertarian Party of Georgia's official podcast that comes out every Monday night at 8 p.m. Then I also have a couple movies over on my website, PeacefulSea.network, that you can go check out. And you can also go follow me, WXM on Twitter, and Instagram. So that'll do it for this week, y'all. See you next week. Up to town.
Search my soul with all your heart, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. And if you knock my soul with all your strength, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it.